I don't really know if it's possible to call Sunday's game against the Carolina Panthers a trap game unless the Saints make the mistake of thinking they're going to face a version of Carolina that we saw last year or even in previous years. Be a totally different team, and the Saints better be careful, otherwise they will walk into a trap. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Now, I know what y'all are thinking right now, but like, come on, a trap game, week one, Carolina, be real. Well, paraphrasing Sun Tzu in The Art of War, to know your enemy and to know yourself is to never fear battle. So let's take a look at the enemy, so to speak, and get to know Carolina. Problem with Carolina last year was they gave up their stud wide receiver, players, a bunch of draft capital, all kind of just talent, whether it was on the roster or potential talent to draft over to Chicago for the right to pick first overall, which they took Bryce Young, which I don't know if it was a good move or a bad move because I know this devoid of talent, especially on the offensive side on that roster to help him out, compounded by the fact that Frank Reich and his offensive coordinator, but pretty much it was Frank Reich's offense calling the shots. Not only did they do nothing to help develop Bryce Young, other than go, hey, rookie, here's the keys to the offense. Go have fun. But they seem to go out of their way at times to make it hard on him. Scheming and play calling, especially, they are because the two, Reich and his offensive coordinator, traded off play calling at various times during the season. But by all analytic measurements last year, Pete Carmichael was the worst offensive play caller, and offensive coordinator in the NFL. And the team closest to him was Frank Reich and Carolina with their scheme and play calling. So starting to sound a little familiar because a lot of the stuff that we're about ready to talk about with Carolina, we kind of went through last year. It's just at least we had better players. We had a veteran quarterback to kind of help out and who definitely played a lot better than their rookie. So it wasn't quite as bad on us. But it was a lot of the similar issues going on there. They had no offensive. Actually, their offensive line is probably worse than I was last year. No offensive line help. No real talent at receiver to throw the ball other than Adam Thielen. And he's not the Adam Thielen that used to terrorize people in Minnesota. Still pretty good, but not enough to solo carry your offense. So there were struggles there. Well, their owner did the right thing, and this is where you get to know your opponent, and he seems to be rectifying the situation. We'll get into personnel in a little bit, but they brought in personnel to try to help out both sides of the ball. First thing he did was go get Dave Canales, who was offense coordinator at Tampa Bay last year. But prior to that, he was a longtime assistant, basically working from the ground up, like starting as a quality control coach, which is basically an intern, and working his way up under Pete Carroll to eventually get into a spot where he was hired to be an offensive coordinator. But he started coaching positions back in 2010 in Seattle, and from 2010 to 2017, wide receiver coach. And he had some pretty good ones that he helped develop and coach over there. Golden Tate, Sidney Rice. He was there at the beginning of the Tyler Lockett career, and Lockett's been a very good receiver in the NFL for, seems like almost a decade now. So 2018, quarterback coach. Then he kind of did a stint as passing game coordinator. Then he kind of went back to quarterback coach. And during that period, and all but thought up, washed up Geno Smith, and washed up maybe being kind because he never really had a good starting quarterback in NFL career. He's bounced around as a backup, shows up over there, and all of a sudden, not only is he the starting quarterback, he plays pretty well. That was not the same Geno Smith we saw way back in the day with the Jets and anywhere else he was there subsequent to that. And Canales gets a lot of credit for that. I think that was a big portion of why Tampa Bay hired him to be the offensive coordinator. And we know what happened there because Canales and Tampa Bay's offense punched us right in the mouth when they rolled into the dome early in the season last year, and they handed it to us with Baker Mayfield, another quarterback who was largely considered a bust, first round, first overall pick, or fourth overall, I forget which, doesn't really matter, top 5 pick, that was considered a bust. Had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay and the Rams for a while as a backup and had to come in and play and didn't look bad doing it. Winds up in Tampa Bay because, well, they've got money issues after the loss of Brady. They need a starting quarterback. He comes in for next to nothing. And that offensive balls out. A lot of people were ready to write off Mike Evans last year. No, sir. Evans came back, had a pretty much a monster year in this offense with Baker Mayfield. So that's who Carolina tapped to come, hey, come turn our stuff around and see if you can't get our, we gave up the house, the car, the land, the neighbor's car, the neighbor's kids, everything to get this guy in to be our quarterback. Well, we're a mess. Can you come fix it? He has a track record of doing that. So ought to scare you a little bit right there. And he seems to have done it different ways. Now, he wasn't the offensive coordinator ever in Seattle, so he wasn't the main guy scheming and he wasn't the guy calling plays. But as passing game coordinator, he was developing a lot of that air attack that Geno Smith, who was largely known as a runner prior to that, settled in and threw the ball nicely, and it worked. He gets to Tampa Bay, and he's able to scheme up an offense on his own and play call it to take a cast-off quarterback backed by Baker Mayfield, win a division that everybody had bequeathed to the Saints before the season even kicked off, win the NFC South, go make and try to make a playoff run. That can't take it lightly. I don't know if he can pull that miracle off on week 1 in Carolina, but Saints defense better be ready. They better come to play because we cannot afford to get caught in the trap. That was when Canales was running Tampa Bay's offense last year when they rolled into the dome and they rolled over us. And that was one of the toughest losses of the season because for large parts of that game, our defense, which is really good, didn't even look like they knew what the hell was going on or what the hell they were going to do about it. Right? Segue nicely into their defense. Ejiro Avero, and I'm probably butchering that, but I tried. He's the defense coordinator. It's his second year. He was there last year. Every one of his assistant coaches, second year, was there last year. Also, his senior assistant advisor, Dom Capers, second year, was there last year. Dom Capers is kind of important in all this because he's running, Vero's running a 3-4. When he came up as a young coach, he did it in Frisco, 2011 to 2015, through various stints through the defensive side of Frisco. That was the heyday of that 3-4 defense. They were running Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis at linebacker. They were good up front. They were good in the secondary. That was a very good defense. Knocked us out of the playoffs in 2011. Made a Super Bowl run that came up just short a couple of years later. So he cut his teeth on one of the better 3-4 versions we've seen in a long time in the NFL, and that stretch run over that period of years. From there, he did 1 year stint in Green Bay, 2016, where Dom Capers, 3-4 Godfather and guru. In fact, he was with the Saints at one point, was with Carolina as a defensive coordinator at one point. Been around a while. Well, he tooted under there for a year, then wound up with the Rams, who's also a 3-4 kind of base defense, but a little differently. They will go sub packages, pull some linebackers off, throw extra safeties, move some guys around. Sometimes they'll even play a little, go from an odd to an even front, stuff like that. But at heart, basic 3-4. Severo went to Denver in 2022 as the defensive coordinator, and that the Hackett disaster year. After that was over with, and everybody got fired in Denver, so they could bring in Sean and all the ex-Saints coaches that are over there. He was hired by Carolina last year. And I get the feeling Carolina, prior to that, they had some good defensive players. They had started to lose some. Hassan Reddick had long been gone. They were slowly whittling away good defensive players and replacing them with maybe not as good. Kind of ran a 4-3 base with multiple. One of their best pass rusher, Brian Burns, kind of almost a joker role at times. Frankie Louvu also, when he came in to replace Reddick, and they primarily brought the pass rush. But neither one was truly that 3-4 kind of outside edge rusher you're looking for in a 3-4 defense. They may do last year. Luvu had a good year, but mostly as an off the ball linebacker. Kind of you thinking out of position. I know he had a good game against us the first time we played him. Um, they're not there anymore. The major personnel turnovers they made was on the defensive side. So the staff's intact. They did keep some of their key players there. Don't get me wrong, but had a big changeover, almost like last year, sort of like Clint Kubiak. And I keep seeing mirrors of what they're doing and what the Saints are trying to do this offseason. But like Clint Kubiak says, well, I got to kind of bring my scheme in to fit the players I have. Seems like that's what Avero did last year, did with the defense in that 3-4. Well, it's not a lot of guys that can run the true, if that's what I'm going to run, 3-4 version. We're going to make do. And we're going to work on getting our players in. So the greatest, I think the most significant player turnover were the ones on the offensive side. So let's go ahead and know our enemy there on personnel. But the most they had were on defense. So real quick on the offensive side, Adam Thielen. Who else are you going to throw the ball to last year? And you think maybe defenses didn't kind of pick up on that? Add in the fact their offensive line was as bad as possible, even worse than ours was last year. So you're faced with issues right off the bat. So they address the Adam Thielen problem, and meaning as he's the only guy out there threatening anybody to catch a ball, because their rookie Jonathan Mingo last year was a rookie and needed some development. DJ Chark did not work out. He's no longer there. She brought in Deontay Johnson, who had some good years with Pittsburgh, then kind of fell off a little bit. Probably a lot of that had to do with Pittsburgh's very bad quarterback situation and Pickens showing up and being the kind of taking over the one spot over there. So they get him, bring him in. Canales kind of had a reputation for developing some wide receivers when he was a wide receiver coach in Seattle. So you got a shot maybe to get that playmaking version of Deontay Johnson that he once was early in his career back. Draft Xavier Leggett, so they're going to add some talent there. They kept Mingo, so once again, if we can develop a young wide receiver, you can put him in the mix, and he's likely to be a receiver akin to kind of what we have on our back end of our wide receiver roster right now. A guy where, look, he may not be a one or a two, but when he's out on the field, we get him the ball. If you ain't paying attention to him, and if you ain't there to knock it away or tackle him, it's going to be trouble. So they've definitely upgraded playmakers than what he had last year. Will it be enough? Don't know, but it's better than just having one guy out there to throw the ball to. But the defensive line, the only thing they really addressed was the interior. Brought in two new guys, one of which is Damian Lewis, pretty good left guard around the league. So you had an improvement there. Another guy, Robert Hunt, I don't know much about. And they were showing last time I looked at a depth chart for whatever that's worth, because that could very well be BS, a little bit like ours may be BS in some spots. But Austin Corbett was shown as the starting center. Now, he would have been one of their guards last year, except for the fact he had been injured the year before, started last 2023 on PUP IR, missed, I think, the first 4 weeks. Came back, played a while, then ended up having a season-ending injury and missing the last 5, 6, 7 games, something like that. So he really wasn't there very long at that right guard spot. I think that's where they were trying to play him. And appears to have moved to center. It's important. Bryce Young, shorter guy, right? No quarterback wants his interior offensive lineman pushed back in his face. But to boot, also Young's game, shorter. He needs pocket when he's going to drop back. He needs room to be able to basically do what Drew and other shorter quarterbacks have done, and be able to kind of massage that ball around in there. Hard to do with people in your face. And more importantly, his game is going to be, especially early in his NFL career, he's going to have to use his legs. And if you watch Baltimore Lamar Jackson last night, how much real estate you can gain if you can get out through the middle and get downfield. Young better slide. Not as big as Lamar, but still could be painfully effective and hurt a team like the Saints, who struggles with that in this game. They kind of fix that interior. They're still going to run with their two tackles, and I think they feel like they thought they would have been better if the interior wouldn't have been so god awful last year. We'll see. But kind of sounds like us recycling some offensive linemen, moving them in a different position, having a couple guys there that you think are pretty solid and pretty good, and hoping they hold up, and hoping you can figure out the rest, and they'll do their job. So again, two teams kind of mirroring themselves in a lot of different ways. Defensively, like we talked about, 3-4. Burns and Justin Houston were pretty much their edge guys last year in that 4-3 look, gone. Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Johnson, which are more true edge players in a 3-4. That's where they're coming from. They had a decent interior last year just because of Brown and Tuttle. And we all know Shy Tuttle gave Saints a couple of good years before Carolina got him in free agency. He's solid. We know very well what he's bringing to the table. He brought it to us for years. High motor. Is he the best defensive tackle in the world? No. But is he going to hurt you? Probably not. He's going to be a steady Eddie guy up there in the middle. Brown's going to be one of your playmakers from the interior. But they had an Ashawn Robinson, who's been in the league a long time as a defender, interior defender. He's a little bit of a version of Shy Tuttle. Kind of the same guy, but a little better and a lot more experience. Been around a little longer. So he kind of added a little extra beef in the middle there. One of the big thing linebackers, they let Frankie Louvu walk out the door. They brought in Josie Jewell, who was Vero's middle linebacker with Denver in 2022. Got a hold of him. Jewell is a guy you'd probably hear more of if he just could stay healthy. Has injury issues throughout his whole career, but when he's healthy, very good run defender, both sideline to sideline, and can attack forward. Pretty good tackler. And he pretty much gets around the ball. You're not going much further, and I think that's why he's there to plug that middle with Shaq Thompson, who was hurt most of last year. He's back, kind of injecting that run defense in there. And in the secondary, they flipped over. They ran some three safety looks last year. Chin and Von Bell are both gone. Brought in a couple Rams, ex-Rams guy, Nick Scott and Jordan Fuller, and I think Scott had to stop somewhere else before he got there. But again, a coach bringing in players he's familiar with to fit his scheme. We've kind of seen that with Kubiak et al. On the offensive side. So they're kind of doing the same thing on the defensive side. So that's why I find the Sun Tzu quote kind of interesting, because it almost seems like if we know ourselves, we know kind of where Carolina's coming from and vice versa, because while not what and what are apples to apples or anything, some significant changes in the offseason. The things that didn't change, trying to inject new players in to get it better. That kind of is both on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, like we said, big changes, new coaches, everything going on. Feeling like we're trying to fit the scheme to what we have until we can get the players we need that are going to fit the scheme we want to run. We have to roll through the injury report and the players and break it down and all. But again, they're not all that different rolling into this game than we are. From the point they started the offseason till the time we kick off, a lot of parallel paths have been walked down by both teams. So we're going to talk a little bit about knowing ourselves, and I'm only going to spend a little bit of time on it because it's been that all off season basically talking about ourselves. But I think the biggest thing is all the things we're trying to do and we're hoping they're going to work. We have to see it to know if it's going to work. That the new offensive scheme, the changeover in roster, trying to get athletic and more versatile, both on some spots on defense, um, definitely more explosive on offense, changing the whole scheme up front. We haven't seen any of the eye candy, window dressing, whatever you want to call it, that's going to go with this offense. Nor we ever really seen the ones run this offense. Basically, one drive in Frisco that worked very well, went 95 for a touch. So we still don't know what it's going to look like. We have a feeling we know what it's going to look like. I think for the most part, we're one or two spots, mostly along the offensive line, we feel good about. We'll be okay. We just got to go out, know our rules at all positions, and execute. Think we'll be okay. We know on defense, we're a good defense. There's two spots that give us fits and cause us all kind of troubles. Mobile quarterbacks that can run. Bryce Young, check. Letting wide receivers who can catch the ball and make plays. We'll talk about that in a second because let's get to the injury report first because it's definitely tied into that second point. And as far as our injury, we know the 4 outs. So that pretty much tells us who 4 of our 5 inactives are going to be. Ford, Hoker, Jackson, and Saunders all out. And I think everybody saw Saunders coming, that this was going to be at least the first week out and then go from there. The one that's really the concern is Willie Gay. He's limited all week and questionable. And since there's no longer a probable on the NFL injury report, you got to read a lot into questionable. I feel like most of the time, if even on a limited basis, if a guy practices all week and is listed as questionable, more than likely is going to go and almost definitely going to be a game time decision. They'll probably have to get him out on the field first and see how everything's going. And so we're not going to likely know that until right before, what, hour and a half, 2 hours before kickoff on Sunday. Lattimore and Werner are off. They're good to go, which is great news. Saldivar is the other one that's limited with a questionable tag. I don't know how important, if it is or isn't, that he's available to play because he really hasn't been on the field for a month. So he got hurt relatively early in training camp. So you don't really know what you're going to get there. I'm just kind of going, if he doesn't play, we'll just have to deal with it because he basically hasn't been there in 3 weeks or more. The tough spots are we're down 2 linebackers, and with Gay being questionable, could be down 3. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see Hudson get called up from the practice squad for the game on Sunday. I don't see how we can avoid that right now. And A.T. Perry showed up, didn't practice this week with a hand issue, not broken. That was covered in the press conference today. But I'm thinking you're probably not likely going to see him this weekend either, which open up as another question. Does St. Brown come off the practice squad, or we're going to roll with the 5 we got, knowing that you have Taysom, so you basically have 6 receivers anyway, in a way. Getting around to Carolina, their injury report is tipping off to us. They're 2 holdover tight ends, and that's why I didn't talk about tight ends when we were talking about Carolina. I was waiting for this to come out. Both of them are out. Thomas and Trimble, their top 2 guys from last year, not going to play. Miles Sanders looks like he's likely to play after 2 full practices because he was injured. So they're going to have a little of their running back help back. Troy Hill look likely to be back. He's one of their backup corners. But in the tight end situation, this could be a double-edged sword, and I do not know which way it's going to go because these 2 guys are out. The only 2 roster tight ends they have right now, they may have somebody they can call up from the practice squad, is their rookie draft pick, Jatavian Sanders. Very athletic, coming out of the University of Texas. So he's played against high-level competition, but he was, even at Texas, he was a little bit of a work in progress at tight end. He's just very big and athletic and fast and can catch the ball and do some amazing stuff, apparently. Carolina drafted him. They already announced he's going to start. So I don't know which way that's going to go. Developing kind of young tight end, but with apparently a lot of athletic ability and ability to hurt you in the passing game. I don't know if that hurts us or not or what. I just know we got to cover him and make sure he didn't go off. The other one is Jordan Matthews, who was a wide receiver for years in the league. He's got to be close to a decade in the league now. He wasn't terrible wide receiver, but he was not exactly a household name. Started with Philadelphia in the Chip Kelly era, knocked around, but Carolina got a hold of him. They're trying to convert him to a tight end, and he's the only other one they have on the roster. So again, not much experience to play an NFL tight end. Really didn't know college experience. This is all kind of new for him. But as a former receiver, you figure, hey, he can catch the ball. He might be able to do something with it. And any tight end that can catch the ball and do a little something with it after the catch, the last few years has historically killed us. So not sure which way this little development's going to end up going. And so we'll move to keys to victory here. I know they seem simplistic, and in a way they are, but in a way they're not. In a way they're very important. But the first one is freaking score some touchdowns, okay? Last year, too many games got away with us, and I don't care how awesome we look moving between the 20s and picking up yardage and making plays and just bogging down and eventually hoping our field goal kicker makes it. And then hoping we can do that enough times to stay in the game while the other team was moving the ball up and down the field and kicking field goals or scoring touchdowns. It's just a battle you can't win. You want to win games in the NFL, you got to score touchdowns. I feel like they have a chance to resolve that problem, but we're not going to know till they get out on the field and do it. Do your job. That was just the easiest way to say, hey, be accountable. Quit doing all the screw up stuff that happens both sides of the ball, largely at inopportune moments where it really kills you. That we've been seeing, I want to say on and off, but way more on than off the last few years. Do your job, hold them accountable, hold each other accountable. If they can't do their job, or if they keep not doing their job, then we need to keep them off the field and bring up some guys out there who can. Been going on way too long. I've got a list of what I consider do your job, which is winning you one-on-ones, and I don't care where you are in the field. Offensive linemen, move people, create space. Defensive linemen, get off blocks and go wreak havoc. Do what you got to do. You know, wide receivers in the passing game, make you win you one-on-ones, contested catches, snag the dang thing. On the backside, or linebackers and on defense in the passing game, interception be nice, but at the very least, PBU to that thing. Don't let them make plays. Even if they catch it, tackle it. Especially if they're short of the chains. Especially if you can put them in a punting situation just by tackling. Which kind of goes along to the defense in general. Even this preseason, our tackling, which at times last year was spotty and at times absolutely horrible, seems to have gotten better throughout the team. However, it seemed in preseason when we were going to miss a tackle, it was horrendously costly. I'm sure you can remember the ones I'm talking about, and one in particular. Got to win the one-ons. I'm putting all that in the one-on-one category. Have to start winning one-on-ones. It's kind of an issue at times in training camp, but then you didn't hear much about it. So hopefully it goes away. Do your job, win your one-on-ones, beat the guy across from you. You know, I know you're not going to do it every play. I'll take majority of the plays. You do the majority of the plays, we'll be fine. And I might even add to that, although this isn't quite a one-on-one, but I guess in a way it is, but definitely do your job and holding people accountable. Stop with the stupid penalties and the self-inflicted wounds. Stop, stop, stop. Stop it. Enough said. And the last thing is start fast. Now, they were talking about start fast in the post-game press conference and stuff like, hey, we've won 5 home openers in a row, and last year we won our first 2. And I'm like, stop it, because I was not starting fast. You were barely moving last year, those first 2 games you won. You barely pulled out Tennessee. You barely pulled out a game against Carolina on Monday Night Football week 2. And that was a shittily bad Carolina team with a true rookie quarterback that didn't know what he was doing and an offensive coaching staff that didn't know how to teach him. You barely walked out of there with that one. You barely escaped Tennessee, which was not a very good football team last year. So it wasn't a fast start. Just the 2 teams we played were moving slower than we were. So it seemed fast. It was anything but. You roll into Green Bay shortly thereafter and kind of got into a fast start, built a 17-0 lead, 3 quarters. Yeah, then you threw it in reverse and they blew past you. And there's a reason why I have that picture up there with the keys to victory and part of start fast. You got to drop the hammer on this guy because you had him shut down for basically 3 quarters or more in that Monday night game, week 2 last. And then they came back and made it interesting with a chance to really, basically to steal the game. And one of the reasons why they were doing it is he started getting mobile, hitting on a few throws, and gaining some yards downfield. Our Achilles heel, and all of a sudden, their offense, which hadn't done crap all night, is suddenly, oh man, because our offense hadn't done crap all night, and we didn't score any points and put the game away. Suddenly, they're late in the 4th quarter with a shot to pull it out. And you think, well, you roll against Green Bay and Jordan Love. That's the game that Jordan Love became a playoff freaking caliber quarterback. Down 17 nothing, leads the 18-point comeback in the fourth quarter. And that was a huge game, both keeping us out the playoffs and getting them in it and developing the legend of Jordan Love. You don't want that happening because of this guy. So part of do your job, handle him. Part of starting fast is handle him, because if the defense can start fast, shut him down, especially if they can get a couple remember me shots, I guess, on him and slow him down even a little more. Well, the offense jumps out, puts points on the board by scoring touchdowns in the red zone and make these guys one dimensional. I like our chances even better. Do your job, score touchdowns, but more importantly, start fast. Get dome field advantage early in that game and keep your foot on the gas pedal and keep that place rocking. That's starting fast. Get your win that way, and let's start building moving forward with that as the foundation and the building block. Not the fast start of the two games last year. That was just, no, it wasn't fast. So there you go. I'm going to throw the prediction. I guess it is prediction time out right now. I'm going 27-17 Saints. Up and down on this. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of things that are mirror images of the team in certain ways. But I think up and down the roster, we have more talented players. I think we're in a better position at quarterback right now. And our defense needs to make sure it stays that way. And I think for the most part, being at home is a great advantage as long as you don't do stupid stuff that puts fans in a position where they're going to want to boo the quarterback or boo the head coach, or where you don't start fast. And some of this bad feeling that we've had, we've given you some of our goodwill back this offseason where you need to roll out early and prove it. But I think they can do all that. And I think all that happens. 27-17 sounds reasonable. If you get off real fast and really jump on them, there's a chance you can widen that up some. But you can't play the brand of football you've tried to play the last 2 years, because I think they do have enough talent, made enough changes that if you do that, you could be revisiting a Tampa Bay situation at home last year. And you're going to get punched in the nose and you're going to lose a football game. So I'm going 27-17. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. And if they do prove me wrong, believe me, the Sunday Night Live post-game show is going to be electric. Trust me. So there you go. Give me a thumbs up. You have to give me a thumbs up if you agree with me. Saints are going to at least win the game, even if you don't agree with the score or the point spread. But hey, let's go there with the optimism. We're gonna win this game. We're gonna do it the right way, the best way, and we're gonna build on build on our season from there. So if you're new here, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification, drop some comments in below. Hang out with some of these guys down in the comments, because they'll bring some quality stuff. So I'm looking forward to everybody's going to say on this one. So till then, don't forget Sunday night. Be ready. 9:30 Central. We're going to be kicking off live. Bring your questions. Bring your hopefully celebration, because we're going to win Sunday. We're going to win Sunday. We're going to win Sunday. 3 times makes it true. So till I see you Sunday night, I'm Tim. Peace out. Who dat?